Our God is on his throne ruling the affairs of men. God does not change. His truths have not changed. He's promised a witness in the church according to the election of grace in all ages that will stand for the old paths, defending his truth. The Primitive Baptist Digital Library is pleased to present the Word of Sovereign Grace. Timely video messages based on the King James Bible and the doctrines taught by Christ and the apostles.
I'm happy to be here. Had a good time since arriving Thursday. I wish all of you had the privilege of standing here and looking out over a congregation of believing children of God. I don't know how any man that feels that he's been called to preach would not want to preach to you. But it takes more than that. I might talk to you, might even get in a big way of talking because I've got a nickname that was hung on me in the state of Arkansas called Motor Mouth. If you have your Bibles and would like to turn and read with me, I'd like to take two words. Brother Daniel used one, I want to use two. Holy and fear. I may have not chosen the best place to base my remarks upon. If I get too loud and bust the speakers, y'all hold your hand up, I'll back off of this a little bit. 15th, 16th, 17th verses of 1 Peter, the first chapter. But as he which hath called you is holy, so be ye holy in all manner of conversation. Because it is written, be ye holy, for I am holy. And if ye call on the Father, who without respect to persons, according to every man's work, he judges. Spend your time with fear. There are two other places that I looked at that God will bless me for a few moments of time to go to, and I want to use one of each one of these. God does judge us according to our works. God does judge us for or because of our works. But God judges his children because of their works while the earth is standing. Now God is going to judge the alien sinner when he's through with this earth according to their works. If you want to find that, you can find it in Revelation 20. Solomon also mentions about it. He said, all of man's works is vanity, vanity, vanity. They tell me in the Hebrew language that means complete. 3 times. And all of his works is vanity, and all shall come to desolation and destruction. Books, works, and all that were dead were cast into the lake of fire and brimstone. Now, I guess you now I believe there is a hell. Not only is there a hell, there's a burning lake of fire that death and hell is going to be delivered in there. To me, that's a little worse than just hell. This fear that I've got under consideration this morning is not quaking that God is going to put me in hell. God never puts anybody in hell. We do that ourselves. How can you have any authority if all of man's works is vanity and void of the Spirit of God? Then where are we ever going to do any work that God will judge us here in this world that we might receive anything from Him? It's very popular in the theologian world, and I listened to two different ones a little bit this morning. Sometimes my mate accuses me of just listening to argue with them, and I love a good argument. I guess I've learned more by arguing than I ever did by just sitting down and reading and studying. Because you get the other man's thoughts and ideas, mostly you get his opinions. I had a boss one time that wrote me a little note and said, Fuller, always have the correct opinion. There's no such a thing. Opinion is something that you draw up or a conclusion that you might bring upon some certain matter. And it can be either way, right or wrong. Most of the time with man, it's wrong. I told a good brother this morning, man will believe a lie a whole lot quicker than he will the truth. Somebody said, well, now, that's not right because we don't believe that. Well, you can take 4 characters in the Bible very easily and prove it. How long did Jacob believe his son was dead? Over 21 years, didn't it? Well, all you got to do is go down there, Brother Fuller, and tell him that the boy's still alive. Well, they did. All 10 sons went down there and told him that Joseph's still alive down there in Egypt. Jacob said, my son's dead. The next individual, when he confronted you, and remember now that the one that made the motion of those boys not to kill Joseph, but sell it and get something out of it. Which one was it? I believe his name was Judah, wasn't it? What did he tell Joseph when Joseph confronted him before he knew he was Joseph? When Joseph says, is your father living? Is there any more of your family? 10 of us. One's back home, and there's one that's not, because he's dead. Here's a man that told a lie so long he believed it himself. So that proves to us we need help. That's about the greatest prayer that I can find in the lips of the Bible. God help. Help me. Several things that's included in that. When you pray that prayer, you're praying the one you believe that can help you, has the power, the authority to help you. Then why should we fear? Why should we live our time in fear if we have all of this going for us while we live in this world? That man this morning was talking about the second coming of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ upon this earth. If you'll draw nigh to Him, He'll draw nigh to you. Now that's the wrong text to prove that statement. I believe Christ is coming back. But I'm certainly not going to draw nigh to Him. And I know a lot of other people that's not either, because a lot of God's children is already dead. And they can't draw nigh to Him. You can hold that theory. You go out to the cemetery and talk to them. Be sure you don't let nobody see you. They might bring those white coat boys and give you some help. Then what kind of fear if we do not fear hell? If we do not fear the things of our life, then what kind of a fear do we have? I believe if we go back to Isaiah in the 45th chapter, just a moment of time, and you know that's that old contrary chapter that said God made the evil and the light and all of that. Well, if you read that text with the context with it, you know what he's talking about. God talked to us to prove to us that we need Him. We're dependent upon God. I wrote a little note to myself on a piece of paper yesterday. I tried to find it a while ago, but I guess I've lost it. That we are dependent individuals. I don't care how you stand and what you've got here in this world. I had the privilege a number of years of knowing, I guess, one of the greatest and well-known men in the airplane industry that there is, Howard Hughes. As far as money and things that could buy in this earth, he had everything that his heart could desire. They still found things that man owns today, and he's been dead for 28 years. But I guess as far as I can remember right now in my mind, he was the most unsettled and the most dissatisfied individual of any man that I had the contact, a privilege of meeting here in this world. Why is that? Because he had no peace. You see, peace is not something that somebody promises you. Have you ever been in a mall or a big store somewhere or another and a small child get lost from its parents or its mother in that store and you see it crying? It won't do that child a bit of good in the world for you to pick it up and say, now kid, don't be scared. Because you're not going to have it a bit. But you pick that child up and say, honey, yonder's mama. Brother, that's going to help that child. That child may be calling for daddy, but he's really wanting mama. I believe I've got a reason why he spent 9 months longer with that mother than he did the father. I tell people Isaiah, the day I was born, that I don't remember a thing in the world about it. And I didn't have anything to do with it. All of that depended upon somebody else. Elder Charlie has told us that God has fixed laws for us here in this world. And brother, there's some absolute laws that God has fixed that we must obey if we live here in this world. Being a flyer most of my life and loving to fly, and I hear people from time to time say, well, if God, my mother used to tell me that, son, if the Lord had meant for you to fly, He'd give you wings. I had a brother 4 years older than I was, went to France and Germany, ran over a landmine, had a 4-inch plate beside of his head, and they sent him back as a dead man at a Walter Reed Hospital in Washington, D.C. My mother hopped on a plane and headed out up there. Why? Because of love. Love is the greatest moving force that you'll ever find on this earth. When you hear somebody say they'll never do anything here in this world, that's something, brother, that many times we have to turn around and eat. Because God fixed us of absolute things here in this world. If I go down to the airport and rent a plane, take a parachute up with me about 10,000 feet, bail out and never pull that cord. Brother, God so prefixed nature that He said, Fuller, when you hit the ground, that's the time to die. because this body can't stop that quick. The organs just explode. That's one of the absolute fixtures in our life here in the world. We found out about it about 200 and some odd years ago when an apple, they say, fell off and hit a man on the head. And he called it gravity. Been around a long time. I had a man to tell me many years ago out in the state of Arizona, and this was one of the smartest engineers I ever laid eyes on or ever had any dealings with. I told the man he's either the smartest individual I ever met or the most ignorant one. I had made my mind up which. He said if the earth ever floats out away from the sun another 100 miles, it'll just crust over and be a solid block of ice. Or if it ever floats 100 miles closer to the sun, it'll catch a fire and annihilate it. I said, Lord, thank you. Been hanging right here for 6,000 years. Man, isn't that a wonderful accident? That it just busted off of the sun 6,000 years ago and floated out here 293 million miles away from the sun and been hanging right there within a 100-mile radius of the sun for that length of period. It looks like people would be smarter than that, don't it? Do you have any idea how much money our nation of America has spent upon the space program? Do you know what the greatest thing the space program is to accomplish? Find out where this earth come from and how old it is. We've spent enough money in America trying to find out where this earth come from and how old it is to feed every woman, man, and child in this earth that's ever been alive in any one generation, and we've got more of them today than there ever has been before, for 31 and a half years. None of us would have to hit a lick of the snow. We're smart people, aren't we? We are really smart to blow all of that money trying to find out where we come from and what we've got here. I used to watch a program way back yonder when I bought my first television. I didn't really intend to buy it. I told my wife, she and drove up and said, we'll bring one out and put it in your house for 30 days. And if you don't want it, we'll come and get it. It costs $200. I believe it was about 1954. I said, I'm going to get that, and when the 30 days is out, I'll tell them to come and get it. A lot of you young people here won't remember Eddie Fisher and Debbie Reynolds. He wrote a song back there, and I'm telling you, sometimes it's still, and I've got a copy of it at home, it still causes chills up and down my spine to just sit and listen to it. If I ever needed love, I need it now. Now, whether that man knew anything at all about love or not, I do not know. But the night they were supposed to come and get that television, their show came on. And I wore that old television out, hauling it up and down the road in an old 47 Cadillac. You see, people are not very smart. Human beings just are not very smart. You look at every other kingdom that God put on this world, and God put them all under him. Put them all under man. Put him over the works of his hands. Didn't have to do a thing in the world, but just boss everything else. And he messed that up. People said, well, if I'd have been back there, I'd have done better than what Adam did. You know, I've never heard tell or seen an individual that can name everything Adam hung a name on to. Now, Adam didn't just name everything. He perpetuated that name down through 8 generations. I believe Methuselah was about 243 years old when Adam died. Not only that, he perpetuated that right on down through under Noah right on to Abram. And the 12 tribes of Abram, and Brother, God just cut it off. Now Abraham tried to add the 43rd generation there, but he didn't get the job done. Because there never will be. It was father and son down under that period of time, but brother, after that period of time, God interfered. That's the reason why it's by grace. God fixed nature, and it's absolute. But that does not mean that God can't override. As Brother Tolley said, that he does as he pleases. I tied up with some, absoluters one time, and they said, well, if it happened that way, how could it have ever been any other way? Now that's one of the poorest reasons that I've ever heard of. For a man to say that it had to happen that way. God foreknew it would happen that way, but brother, he could have made it happen another way. Just because a certain individual gets out here in investigating wrecks with a company that I work for, and I work for one that drove more miles than any company in the United States of America. And when we got to the place of investigating accidents sometime, eventually every time I'd walk up to a wreck somewhere, if there were several people there, there would be somebody that would say, well, it's just his time to die. Now that gets to me a little bit. I'm not preaching not to that thing get to it. I read a verse of scripture over yonder one time in the 119th Psalm is David, back I believe about the 165th verse, says they that love the Lord nothing shall offend them. I thought, now wait a minute, Lord, you know I love you. But people says things every once in a while that offend even my wife does that every now and then. And I've been putting up with her for 40 years. We'll be December. I'm sure that I do a lot of things that she don't like. See, that proves one thing, there's no two of us alike. We're all different, every one of us. Why are we different? Can you just imagine in your wildest imagination that God created Adam and every human being in those loins of his since the beginning of time, and there's no two of them alike? Yes, I've seen some identical twins. I was raised with a pair of them. Then was the two contrarious girls who looked similar. Now, one of them changed for some reason. Her outlook on life, and I got to where I could tell which one I had, which one I was dating. Because one was a blonde and the other was a brunette, and you know they come out with that stuff to change your hair, and you didn't really know which one you had. But one of them, somewhere in those years of my growing up back there, her personality changed. She wasn't as contrary as the other one was. So you know, it didn't take me just a few questions to find out where I was at with Loretta or Moretta. It didn't really take very long to find out. And that's with a man. You can spend a little time with a man here in this world, a woman or a child, and find out just in a little while what kind of individual they are. You say, well, now how can you do that, Brother Fuller? Well, you can find out they're kin to old Adam because they lied to you. Oh, well, now, Brother Fuller, I don't tell any lies. Well, I've met one or two perfectionists along my life, but it don't take very long to prove that they're not. Because, you see, when we stand without the fear of God, We're standing in this old flesh, and brother, this old flesh will lie to you. It'll deceive you. I've got a little 3-year-old grandchild, which is a great niece. You see, I never had any children. I bypassed them and got the grandkids. I got 3 girls and a boy. And that little boy is 3 years old and will be in just a few days. And of course, he's picked up a whole lot of my habits, being around him a whole lot. But now, we usually just keep 2 of them at the time. But Adrian Webb said, you know, you go get the little angels on Friday and carry the little devils back home Sunday night. So we get a couple of them, you know, to keep having all 4 at once. They about drive old people crazy when you got 4 of them together. And that little fella, he don't ever do anything. Deanna always done it. That's his sister. That's 4 years old, or 5 years old. Was just last month. Deanna never does anything. Deanna does. Now, where did he get that at? She got that from his daddy Adam. That's the reason why I know that he's a little Adamite, because he's got that, you see, bread in him. You talking about bread and things in people? Yes, sir, you can. We've got people, you know, that's about all they do is upbreed the race of this, that, and the other. But you see, you never will be able to change one from one state to another. You see, our English language has a lot of words in it that carries several attributes to it. State, this is the state of Tennessee. State, you can take water, you can change it from one body to another. But brother, you can't change it from its state. It's water. I don't care if you freeze it, if you evaporate it, or whatever you do to it, it's still water. And we've got the same amount that God created in the creation. God just moves it from place to place. The equator is one of the most miraculous places that I've ever seen in my life. It is a marvel to fly across that thing and see the water just pouring off of the bottom of the leaves and the top of it be dry. How can it be? One of the great phenomena of nature that God so fixed that. You see the little river starts out up here, and I've had the privilege of being up here in the upper end of Tennessee, in the edge of North Carolina, where both the Little Tennessee and the Tennessee River starts. They come out of a spring run on each side of the mountain up yonder above Cherokee, North Carolina. And that is some of the purest and the clearest water that you'll ever drink. But you go down here below Chattanooga, Tennessee, and try to get you a drink out of the Tennessee River, brother, and it's so polluted, you'll have to have no telling how many chemicals to put in it to make it fit to drink. Why? Because man has polluted it. See, man was made, one of the brethren mentioned that man was made upright, but he sought out many inventions, and them to his own hurt. I vividly had an experience with that when I first entered in the ministry back in 1968, which first opened the Interstate 40 from Nashville on down to Memphis, Tennessee. And I was up at home there. My wife was staying with her mother, and I started home. One of the brethren already, kind of put me under my seat out there anyway. Said, anybody drive a car 100 miles an hour didn't have too good a sense. Well, of course, I knew I don't have too good a sense to start with. But I headed out to Covington, Tennessee, which is about 75 miles, in a hurry to get home to bed after service Sunday night, and I let it down. Had an old 75 Buick with a 455 engine in it, and it'd do about 132 miles an hour, and it was on the floor. As I passed the 81-mile marker, going on down the interstate there, slowed down a little through the city of Jackson, got on down there to the 63-mile marker, and they put one of these rails up for a hole in over there, and I noticed a bunch of blue lights flashing. I pulled on down there, got up pretty close. This car had undone one of those rails with 6 telephone people in it, and had drowned all the way through the car. Killed 4 of them right there on the spot. One of them still in a wheelchair today. I was riding down the interstate doing about 130 miles an hour, a little better, thinking, boy, how good it is. But I can just, I'll be in the bed, in about 15 minutes, getting sleep to get up and go to work in the morning, feeling real chippy about it. Run up on that accident, and it taken 4 lives. All of men's works are vanity. It was real good to me. But it took the lives of those individuals. You see, all of man's works is vanity and vexation of the spirit. There is where we get out here, going there just a moment of time. I won't want to, haven't said very much about the word holy, but I want to deal with that just a moment of time before my time runs out. Notice here in the 10th chapter of the book of Romans, and also one place in the 11th chapter, I want to just use just a little bit for just a moment of time. We find out, how are you holy? How can a man be holy? How can a man become a saint? We have people that make saints here in this world. What is a saint? About the simplest identification of that I can find is a justified individual. One that is justified. Now that's a word that can be used many ways. It is in the Bible. It's used many occasions for justification. We even have a justification of this flesh by the purification of that under the law. But notice what it did. It's the first miracle that Jesus did here upon this earth. When he turned that water into wine, what did he turn it into wine in? He turned it into stone. And those stones held 2 or 3 firkins a piece of water. And how many were there? There were 6 of them. Incomplete. That's the number of man. 666. He's incomplete. In his natural state here in this world. He has left that where he was. He's fell under the curse of the law of sin and death. Oh, but you reach up to get the Lord, and he reaches down. Brother, that's a lie of Satan. Satan has instilled that in ministers' minds here in this world. You see, somebody asked me a question one time with Brother Fuller. Why does so many people read the same book, 1611 translation of the King James, and come up with the very same idea here upon this world with so many different orders of people here in this world? I believe I can tell you, somebody's messed with evidence. That's the quickest way in the world to get a case thrown out of court, is for you to mess with evidence. A judge will pick that out quicker than anything in the world. Aren't you thankful this morning that our God is not like that? Because men have messed with his evidence down through there. This is a book of evidences, a child of God. I like what old Elder John Leland wrote many years ago about it. That it's one of the most miraculous books that there's ever been. You can sit down with it if you're just the average reader and read it in 60 to 80 hours of time. A span of time back under that covers 4,000 years of law. You can cover 2,000 years of grace and look into the future unto the end of time and read it in just 80 hours. Isn't that a marvel? That man has something like that left of God here in this world, that he might be able to sit down and feel that I can't reach out and touch Jesus, a child of God, because I believe he's the other side even of that little planet Neptune that it took us 18 months to get out there to. Takes a radio signal 72 hours to get back here onto this earth from it. And Brother God said he's the other side of it, just by baffling of the mind. When we look at the great Milky Way, 30 million light years long, is it figuring off it, whether it is or not? It's a long way. That's the reason why I tell these people to know they're going to heaven if they get started. It might be over with before they get there. You see, you can't even get yourself to the cemetery. You got to have somebody carry you over there, or down there, wherever it's going to be, or up there. I got a brother that operated on for colon cancer last Tuesday morning in Chicago, Illinois, and lost one 4 years ago, January this 22nd, for the same thing. The doctors came out and told us that he's already had it in his liver. Well, that tore the wife and daughter up right there. The son stood up pretty good till we went in the room and he took one look at him and he couldn't stand it, tore him all to pieces. The question was asked, why? You know, that's one of the greatest questions that mankind has upon this earth, is why? Why, God? He's given us every answer if we'll just seek and search for it. If we'll look for it, we got every answer in this book. Somebody said, well, you can't figure out how come Job to have so much problems and so much trouble. Well, now, you don't have to wonder about that because God told us. God said Job was upright, a man that didn't shoot evil, and that kills every thought that you've ever heard that God and Satan is on the same plane. That God can't hold for you and Satan cast one for you, and you've got to decide in both. Well, brother, the bottom verse of Isaiah 34 said that was election hell. But notice, he divided it unto them by line from generation to generation forever. You know forever is long enough. That may include age in somewhere in the Bible in some places, but forever is long enough. And old Paul wrote over yonder in the 9th chapter of the book of Hebrews that it's perfect. Perfect's good enough, and forever is long enough. You see, this is a fear that is a fatherly fear or a parental fear. Now, I feared my daddy. He got killed when I was 13 years old. And my older brother got to go to the field and plow with daddy. I had to stay at home and help mama wash and all them too. I'm pretty good food today. But I'd give anything in the world if I could have just went to the field with him. My dad was a loving and caring individual, as warm and tender. My mama wanted me to touch him and say bye to him. That was the coldest and cleanest body that I have ever felt in my life. I knew that wasn't my daddy. I knew it was the body that he walked in. I knew that without any shadow of doubt. But my daddy wasn't in that body anymore. One of the brethren have mentioned, I told my brother just prior to operation, I said, you're in a no-lose situation. And he looked up at me, how you figure that knew with cancer? I said, well, if you go down to the hospital and the doctor does a good job on you, operates on you, gets everything all fixed up, you get to stay here with us a while longer. If you don't, you'll be carried into glory to be with Jesus. You know that, hope? You see, that's just a no-lose situation, people. You can't lose. You might say, like the woman did in the bank. I recall back in 1941, there's a man predicted the world to come to an end, and he told the hour that it was going to come to an end. And it happened to fall on Friday morning at 11 o'clock. And the little place that I was a bundle boy in there, HIS Sports Clothes Factory in Brewster, Tennessee, I was carrying bundles there being a little kid in school when the school season was out. This one lady, sister that was in there, they got to talking about that, and you know what she said? Lord, I hope it waits till we get our checks, and we got paid at 11 o'clock on Friday. And I thought, well, what in the world are you going to need money for? You see, I don't believe Revelation is talking about eternal heaven. When the scriptures go, if it is people, there's 12 gates to that place. Jesus is not the gate, the way, the truth, and the life. Because those 12 apostles, that's the church. I believe I've seen that golden street coming right down to the halo above the preacher's head here up on this earth. One of the brethren mentioned why he was a primitive Baptist. I'll close and tell you why I'm one. I get a feeling when I can hear the gospel of my salvation preached that I don't get anywhere else in the world other than in the old primitive Baptist church. I thank you, and God bless you.
Before the throne of God above, I have a strong, a perfect plea, a great high priest whose name is love, whoever lives and pleads for me.
Visit the Primitive Baptist Digital Library for videos, articles, history, hymns, and encouragement. www.primitivebaptist.net